Alright, let's go ahead and just jump right in and talk about the Harlequin rasbora. Back when I worked in pet shops, one of the biggest questions I've always got asked is, what is a good bulletproof fish for a small tank? And back then I really didn't know a lot about these guys because I was a cichlid guy back then. I'm talking several years ago. And man, if there is ever a fish that foots the bill for what's a good bulletproof fish for a small tank, the Harlequin rasbora is it. Okay, so what is it and how do we keep it happy in a glass box? Well, the Harlequin rasbora, also oftentimes called the het rasbora because of its Latin name, it comes from Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, Asia. The thing that's kind of funny about this fish is it doesn't exactly fit the standard rasbora profile. In the wild, this fish is found in really acidic, almost black water type conditions. So you would think this fish would be kind of picky and kind of hard to keep. But what we've found is that this fish is really adaptable and does well in just about anything that we call an aquarium. In fact, this fish was one of the first fish coming out of, Asia that we have kept. There's been records of this fish being kept for the home aquaria as far back as the 1930s. Given the technology they had back in the 30s, you could not keep very picky fish long term given with what they had. So this fish has been around. It's been around for a very long time. It's extremely, well, not extremely cheap, but it's cheap. And the cool part is it looks good. Alright, since we're talking about looks real quick, let's just run through my experience with these. This is an aquarium fish that's been around. I knew what they were, but every time you walk past them in a pet shop, that's what 90% of people do. They just walk right past them. The reason for that is chances are, number one, you've got immature fish that haven't colored up all the way, and they're in crappy lighting. Once I actually got some of these and I put them in a planted tank, just because, it was one of those, I'm experimenting with a planted tank and I want some fish to go in there just so I have some movement to kind of look at something to look at in this planted tank is the reason I bought them. I wasn't impressed at the pet shop with them at all. But once I got them in my tank and they started growing up, I saw these colors come out. This almost like copper-like color with a metallic sheen, and their eyes would just pop. You could see their eyes from across the room, and I was like, wait a minute, these are the same fish? These fish really do color up as they mature, and a little trick with the lighting you can do is they prefer a warmer light. If you have a planted tank and you put on those lights that almost look pink, you put this fish under those kind of lights and they just really stand out. It just complements their body color perfectly, and you'll have some really nice fish. So just because they're not very colorful in a pet shop doesn't mean that they're not going to be colorful once they grow up and you have them for a while. Okay, now we know what they are, we know they're inexpensive, and we know they're a pretty cool looking fish. But how do they act and what can you expect? This fish doesn't mess with anybody. They kind of just hang out by themselves. They hang out in open areas of a planted tank where they have room to swim around. And they seem to school a lot tighter than, say, in this tank I have neon tetras and I have cherry barbs. And the neon tetras and the cherry barbs both spread out and they just kind of hang out and they enjoying life. The rasboras, though, or the I'm sorry, the het rasboras or Harlequin rasboras, they're very seldom away from each other for more than a couple seconds. They like to stick around together and hang out in the open areas. Now I will say, when I say open areas, that doesn't mean put them in a tank that's, you know, pretty much a glass box. They do like seeing the plants around them, and they like seeing other fish. It makes them comfortable, and that's kind of the reason they color up more when you get them home than they are at a pet shop. They do want that security of seeing other fish. They do want that security of plants around them, and they'll just look better that way. But they're a tight schooling fish, so it doesn't matter. This is a fish you can put in a 10-gallon tank, and you can put 20 of them in a 125-gallon tank that's 6 foot long, and you'll really get that schooling effect. Whereas some of the other fish that we think of schooling, when they're comfortable, they kind of spread out. Where like a neon tetra only schools when it's kind of nervous, and it'll school real tight, but once it feels okay, they'll kind of just hang out on their own. They're cool with it. These fish, they always seem to stay together. Back earlier, I forgot to mention size. This is a small fish. This is a fish you can put in a 10-gallon tank comfortably. They don't get that big. 1.5 inches, 1 3/4. I don't know if I've ever seen an actual 2-inch one. So they stay pretty small, so you can put them in some pretty small tanks, provided that the water... I say these fish are highly adaptable, but that doesn't mean they're indestructible. You can't keep them in, you know, crappy water. Make sure your nitrite or nitrates are within reason, and all the other parameters really don't matter. When it comes to feeding this fish, it's actually pretty easy. They'll eat just about anything that we call standard aquarium food. Flake food, granules. When it comes to pellets and things like that, just make sure the pellets are small enough. This is a small fish, so you gotta make sure that the pellets are small enough for them. Frozen foods, they'll accept brine shrimp, bloodworms, mysis shrimp, just about anything, really. So feeding them is really a non-issue. They'll eat just about anything. So that's why one of the reasons I love recommending this fish so much is it's really that adaptable. It is literally one of the perfect beginner fish, except nobody ever talks about it as a beginner fish. So we went over the basics of this fish. Now let's talk about maybe some of the more advanced things. One of the things, I don't see any sexual dimorphism in this fish. The males and females look identical to me. I can't tell. I could probably give you the standard answer of the females should be more robust. They should be more round, you know, but that in a fish this small and as quick as they are, and I honestly don't see a difference. But here's the thing now. Earlier in the video, I said that these guys don't fit the normal rasbora profile. And when it comes to breeding, this is true. Most rasboras, at least all the ones I know of anyways, they're egg scatterers. Where, you know, in the morning or the evening, depending on the species, they'll run around the tank like crazy and scatter eggs in the plants, and the eggs settle where they settle, and most of them are eaten by the tank inhabitants. And on the remote chance that you had one hatch, the fry is going to get eaten too. These guys, on the other hand, have an entirely different approach, where they lay sticky eggs on the underside of broadleaf plants, which goes against everything I know about rasboras, but it's kind of neat. But I've never tried it myself, but here's the thing. This fish is extremely adaptable, and we keep them in water parameters that are actually outside their normal home. To breed this fish, you're gonna have a little more of a challenge. This fish will be completely happy living in just, you know, a normal fish tank, whether it's high pH with some minerals in it, or a low pH that's stripped of anything. The only way you're going to get these guys to breed, though, is with an influx of black water. You're going to have to really drop that pH and really get rid of those minerals, and really bring them to like discus like conditions to get them to spawn. And I just haven't put forth that effort yet, but it would be neat. I really wish somebody would make a video of them doing it. So to take a quick recap on this fish, to make this video short, this is probably my #1 recommendation as a beginner fish. They are doggone near bulletproof. I've never seen one with ick. I've never seen one with fungus hanging out of it. They're just a bulletproof fish that just can take doggone anything and be happy. Just keep your water clean. Keep your nitrates within reason. And by within reason, I mean, you know, just, it can be pretty doggone dirty and they'll still be happy. The fish is small. It can live in a small tank. It looks good. It's inexpensive. So I don't know why other YouTubers don't actually recommend this fish as like a #1 beginner fish, because it fits the bill perfectly. Anyways, that's it. That's all I got on this fish. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.